The Abercrombie and Fitch story is yet another one of these stories that's coming to light about exploitation, and by about the exploitation of people in power, by people in power of people who are in need of a job, of actors and so on. And so that's one of the common denominators with so many of the other stories that are coming out at the moment. But the other issue is this thing about getting actors to sign NDAs at the last possible minute. Often when there's one story about a person being made to sign an NDA when he was naked, and he says that he didn't really know what he was signing. And as with so many of these NDAs, I've had to sign an NDA. I hasten to add, I was fully clothed when I was made to sign it, but I never had a copy. Like so many of these NDAs, the NDA is this legal piece of coercion which you're told you've signed. You've never really been able to read it. You've never had advice from anybody when you signed it because there was no one there to give you advice, but you were put under a lot of pressure to sign it at that moment. And then God knows what happens afterwards. And you're expected to keep quiet. And frankly, this is legal bullying. And we can say, oh yes, all these particular arty organisations, the media organisations with their NDAs, these people who are exploiting actors. Yes, that's also true. But equally, it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the exploitative and deeply perverse way in which the law universally works. I'm not talking specifically about British law. It's present in the NDA nonsense is present globally. And it's one way in which particularly actors and musicians have been so badly exploited over the years, particularly since the 1960s, the NDA, and people are terrified. And the contracts are not much better. You sign a contract and you think, well, there's nothing in here that's particularly alarming. No, there isn't. But it's not really intended to be to be questioned in a court of law. It's intended to intimidate agents. It's intended to intimidate other actors. It's intended to intimidate directors, producers, and so on. It's intended as a piece of paper that you thrust up. You question this, and you will never work again in our town. And I think it's very important that these issues are now being raised, not only in advertising and in the more exploitative media like reality TV, but also in the music industry as well. It's time these things were blown open and exposed for the crass abuse that they actually are. Abuse by people, by producers and by agents and by these sort of slimy third-rate individuals who have no talent, who are battening like leeches on the talent of others. We can think of George Michael and his problems. Creativity is something that should be nurtured, not suppressed. And we have used the law, particularly in England, in Britain. We have used the law to suppress talent, to make people miserable and fearful of using the God-given talent that they possess, of not being able to develop that talent because they're fearful of what was in those mesmeric bits of paper that they were forced to sign, and they don't have a copy. They don't have a copy. So if you've never been given a copy, what's the point of the piece of paper? Because someone else has got a copy. Now say, is that your signature? You say, well, yeah, I think so. I don't know. I was naked when I signed it. Yeah, it's your signature then. And you're expected to kowtow. It's a form of slavery. And while slavery may be countenanced in the darker pages of the Old Testament, while slavery may even be accepted by St. Paul when he's writing to Philemon, if you remember Onesimus. I don't think today slavery is one of those things which should be encouraged. I think it's something that we really should think of having abolished. But the NDA is a form of legal slavery. It needs to go.